be. I mean,
What are you guys talking about?
Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel really came out and made some negative comments about like. So YouTube just came out with their gaming streaming service, or their streaming service for gaming,
Yep, I saw that.
and Jimmy Kimmel made a comment about how he can't believe anybody sits around and watches people play video games, which got the gaming community in a huge uproar against
Didn't
Jimmy
I
Kimmel.
make that same comment like a
You're
long
not
time
Jimmy Kimmel though.
Yeah, who cares about you?
We know that you don't understand cool things now, Mike.
I
You're
know.
just an old
I
man.
feel like I should be famous because I could have made waves with that.
Whenever I answer the phone, I'm like, hello.
What pissed you off?
It's a great argument to have.
I love my mom, but I think she's half crazy for doing that.
How dare you?
Do you work with your girlfriend, Mark? Or your wife? Mark?
I keep them separated. Sometimes I call people, they don't answer the phone. I'm like,
Wrong number, click.
Well, he's not that smart, but sometimes he sounds like he knows what he's doing.
yeah,
Go.
But therefore, you're an ass, and I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah, but what do we know?
That reminds me of two things. One was King of the Hill when Bobby's talking to his dad. It's like, Dad, why you gotta hate things that you don't understand? And he says, I don't hate you, Bobby. It's like, I meant soccer, Dad. And the second thing that comes to mind when I heard him like bashing people watching people play video games is, what the hell do you think people who watch sports are doing?
That's what a lot of the more subtle outlash toward him was, because there was people like, especially from the Call of Duty community, really were like telling him to like go get ass cancer and like all this like ridiculous things.
Yeah,
like,
but
like
they say that to
crazy.
each other too, right?
Well, yeah, probably.
So next up is Jimmy Kimmel reading mean tweets of himself. That'll be awesome. Because those are so funny. To me, that's the funniest part of Kimmel's show is the mean tweets segment.
I'm really shocked in the entertainment industry that he would make comments like that, because obviously not having an understanding of how big the gaming community is and how big like Twitch and the reason why YouTube started their own gaming service, like, and things like that, because it's huge and up and coming and getting more and more and more popular every year, like significantly popular. I'm really surprised a guy who's that big in the media doesn't know that. That's where it's baffling.
So,
And his demographics.
Right.
His demographic
Right.
is the younger people that actually do watch these videos.
so
Just blows my mind.
it's weird to me too. Like, okay, so I didn't hear Jimmy Kimmel's quotes. You guys sound like he was like totally extremely bashing everyone who watches those things. And I guess I've never done that on this show for sure. Because to each his own, I don't care. But I don't understand it either. Like, so obviously I've talked on here, I'm not much of a gamer anymore. I used to be, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But now, like, on the rare opportunity that I have some free time, I'd much rather be playing. Like, I still don't understand the desire to watch other people play. Like, I don't get how that would be.
Do you ever watch a movie? Have you ever seen a movie in your life?
Yeah.
So think of what this side of the industry is. It's like a movie that, especially in the streaming community where you're doing it live, it's like a movie that you're having interaction with the actors as the movie is being made.
I don't agree with that, because you're playing a game that you yourself could play, and if you've played it at any point in time, it's not like a movie where you're getting into a storyline that you don't know what's ahead of you.
Some games aren't storylines, and even the ones that are, if the person you're watching doesn't know the story and you do, sometimes one of the priceless things that you're watching is their reaction to something that happens, or how they figure out a puzzle and how to get somewhere, and watching somebody else's thought process behind that. It's just looking at things from a different side.
So you've touched on two things that I also don't understand. So part of that sounds like the whole reality TV fascination, which I don't get into at all.
All right.
What you said, you might watch somebody solve a puzzle you don't get. Well, at that point, I'm just cheating playing a game
No. I didn't say solving a puzzle that I don't get, though people do watch that for they get stuck somewhere and they want to see how somebody else does it, and people have walkthroughs specifically for that. What I said was you like to watch somebody else solve a puzzle to see their thought process behind solving it. It took me 2 hours because I couldn't figure out this part. How is this person that I've like grown and connected with and feel like I have a connection with because I've watched their streams for a while, interacted with them during their streams? How do I feel that they're going to solve something like this? I'm just giving an example.
Right. No. And you know how we are. Like, I'm not attacking you in any way, shape, or form. I don't understand.
Jimmy Kimmel.
Well, right.
Well, I mean,
yeah, I don't
to further explain, like, there's people who read the Game of Thrones series, or what was the actual title, like Fire and Ice series or whatever. And
it's the Game of Thrones series.
Right.
One of the titles is Fire and Ice.
Yeah. No, the Fire Ice is the series. Game of Thrones is like the first book, I think. Technically, I'm not sure. I haven't really read the book.
Nerd.
Anyways, besides the point, people read the books and they read the Red Wedding, right? And they know, man, something's really big and shocking is going to happen. So when they're watching HBO with their girlfriend or boyfriend, they know what's coming up. They know what there's going to be a huge reaction, and that's really enjoyable to see sometimes. Like what's going to happen, but watching somebody else react to it is also really enjoyable to watch.
Well, let's also get into this part, Mike. What Mark brought up at the very beginning of this. You watch football games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Football games aren't scripted. They're a game against two teams. You want to see who wins.
Right.
There's more to it than that. Than what you're seeing. What if you're watching gaming of two people versus each other because you want to see which one's better at the game? You want to see which guy's going to lead his team to victory.
I can understand that. I think I've talked on here about how I used to play World of Warcraft before kids. So I definitely can understand, the games where there's like this intense sort of strategy aspect to it. Like I understand that.
And I guarantee you've seen the Leroy Jenkins video.
Oh yeah.
So you can't say you've never seen anybody play gaming before.
Right, but that was just ridiculous and funny, and I appreciate that for what it is.
That's what a lot of people try to do with their gaming streams. Make them ridiculous and funny. It's just happening live.
Okay, I guess. I don't know. I wouldn't want to wade through the hours of live stuff to try to get. But again, I think that goes back to me not appreciating reality TV on any level for the most part either. But when you take it to sports, to me, that's a whole nother thing because that's dealing with all these different. I'm trying to relate it back to World of Warcraft, and it's running through my head, and it's probably not a clear, concise stream of consciousness and going out on this podcast right now. But like so when you know what your adversary is going to do, like in a super intense strategy game, like there's all these rules and programming in place that the thing you're trying to conquer or beat only does these things. That doesn't happen in sports.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say there's something about watching somebody who can do something, maybe even something you can do much better than you, right? So, well, I wouldn't necessarily call chess a sport or whatever. Mm-hmm. You could say like, watching Bobby Fischer play like 12 grandmasters at the same time. Like I could play chess, and I'm not going to say, oh, well, it's so much more fun just me like sucking at chess than it is to watch Bobby Fischer, do something spectacular with something, so a game that pretty much anyone can play, just they can't play well. And same thing with gaming. Like when I watch speed runs, like it blows my mind that like they find glitches to give them a fraction of a second.
That stuff amazes me as well.
And same thing with football. Like I suck at football. If you ever you played with me when we play football, I go run really far, but I can never catch the ball. So what's the point? I mean, it's fun, but like I'm sure you'd rather sometimes watch the Lions, and then to watch me play football, right? So there's that aspect of it.
So to me, and so don't get me wrong, like when you talk about the speed runs, like I've watched some of those on YouTube, and they are impressive. Like you said, they are impressive for what they are, but to me, it's not that impressive. I don't think I've ever made it through an entire speed run video because I'm just like, all right, I see what this guy is going to do, and I can,
depending on what speedrun videos you're watching, for one, I don't think you can know what they're going to do because it's a lot of code manipulation that nobody learned existed, and
Right.
there's certain ways you do stuff. And do you realize when you can't get through a whole speedrun video that there's speedrun videos that are like 2 minutes long because that's how long it took them to speedrun a game?
Well, maybe, but I've only watched a portion of maybe 2 or 3 speedrun videos, and I get what they're going for, and I get that they're, taking advantage of these glitches in programming, so one of the ones that I started watching was the Mike Tyson Punch Out.
The blindfolded one?
Blindfolded, yeah. Yeah, it's a pattern. He's memorized the pattern, and he can knock out everybody without looking at the screen. I get it. Okay, I understand what he's going to do.
I understand why you can't get through that speed run because I didn't get through. Or it's not really a speed run, but that run because I didn't get through it either. I actually watched the first couple of fights and then skipped to the end to see how he did at the end because it's impressive to me that somebody learned the patterns and could do them blindfolded for that long because that's pretty impressive to do, but I didn't want to watch that whole thing.
Is it impressive? Why would he learn to do that?
I mean, because it's
devoted that.
Okay, but let's break it down. Okay, let's break down sports to the most basic level.
Right,
okay,
yeah.
let's talk about football. You have Team A that you have no real invested interest on besides just liking the team, versus Team B you have really nothing against except for their team's rival, and they play a game that actually doesn't really do anything. It doesn't really accomplish anything, and you go nuts over it. But if you're into football or NASCAR or whatever, I mean, good for you. You enjoyed that particular thing. I think some people who like watching people game, they like that particular thing. Nothing wrong with either, really. I mean, it's not like, you watch football and then the loser team dies. Then, yeah, maybe there's something
like
wrong.
Gladiator.
Yeah.
So I guess the only thing you can say about football and that being different is that, yes, there is like set strategies to football. And so you can...
Well, there is strategies to
football.
But both teams can have the exact same strategy.
I'm just saying there's...
But it's always adjusting.
You can't say that it's unique to just football versus, let's say, online football or online other games.
Oh, I absolutely can say that's unique because the online football game is still restricted by its programming, whereas in real life, a coach can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants.
I disagree. In a game, I can make my football player run all the way to the back of the end zone and stay there until they get tackled. I think
what Mike is saying is, despite there being rules of a football game, unlike in the video football game, Bill Belichick can still sneak into somebody else's stadium and start videotaping their practices because there's free will involved.
Tom Brady can deflate the balls.
But Tom Brady can deflate the balls and still come back for game one. Woo!
Okay,
sure. He's on your team.
He's my quarterback. Yes, sir. Both of my fantasy teams have 2 amazing quarterbacks on them.
Well, that's good. Throw it to Gronkowski because he's my tight end. I love that. but so my attraction to football is not only the strategy of the whole thing, because there is a lot of strategy involved with it, but it's also mixed with the chaos of the whole scenario, because no matter how much you know about the strategy, you're not going to know everything that's going to happen because the laws of chaos are just way too in effect. And I totally appreciate that sort of collision of art and strategy and just the unknown
Let's bring that back to the speedrun level. Like you said, a game is restricted by its programming or lack thereof proper programming to stop you from exploiting certain things that people don't learn about. Granted, it doesn't happen as often in newer games anymore. It's a lot of the old games and overwriting memory addresses and things like that. But it's still an unknown thing that you would never have anticipated. It's just the same thing as having free will, quote unquote, but you have to just do it in a certain way to get it, to make it happen.
And every once in a while you hear about things that are like things made into the game, Easter eggs made into the game that's been going like 10 years, people playing it consistently.
Had no
and then
idea.
somebody just discovered,
And it's funny because so it brings up like a couple different reasons on why I like to watch videos on gaming. Is one, I will watch it because I like to see the new speed run that just happened. How did they all of a sudden make Super Mario World? How did they get a faster one all of a sudden with one of these new exploits that they found? Another one is I like to watch old games that I used to play and watch. I've watched actually like sat down and watched full playthroughs of an old game that didn't even have commentary just because I was like, oh, the nostalgia of doing this, and oh, I remember this, and oh, I forgot about this, but I don't want to play the game right now. I'd rather watch somebody else do it. I know they're going to get to the end and see how they did everything. And another thing is I just find some people that I enjoy their commentary so much that it makes the game even that much more enthralling to me, is because they're making jokes or they're saying things that are just like, they talk about something that I'm like listening to a podcast. There just happens to be a video game instead of the pictures of our faces playing in the background.
And sometimes it's also like playing the game with your friend. Like I play games by myself quite a bit by myself now. And it's not nearly as much fun as having somebody even just watching with you. Like Jeff, you did the video on the Stanley Stanley
Parable?
Yeah, the Stanley Parable. And I was laughing my ass off playing it, but my wife didn't want to watch. And I'm just playing it, and, it's really fun. But it would have been like 3 times more fun if I had someone there, laughing with me. Or even, same thing when going to the movies. Sometimes going to the movies with someone is just more fun.
And one thing, I think we've talked about this on the podcast before. So it's not like I'm saying, people who watch these videos are losers, because that's not what I'm saying. Because
it is what you're
because we've talked about on this show that when I was younger, like I had the cheat guides for like Zelda for the NES, stuff like that. So probably back when I was into gaming, I would have totally done this, but an older curmudgeon-y Mike, I guess, doesn't understand.
I can't wait until your kids grow up to become like gaming legends on YouTube and on Twitch.
But by the way, old curmudgeon-y Mike is about to buy a Mac laptop.
Are you slipping even farther down the ranks? Is that what's happening here? I don't understand where you're going with this. Are you trying to say that makes you cool, Mike, again?
Yeah,
Mac was only cool before.
I think I'm borderline cool, Mike, again. Or at least inching that way. Probably not borderline.
With the Mac purchase, you're inching the opposite direction in my mind. But I mean, that's...
So
whenever like when Apple did that commercial against IBM where they threw the hammer into the screen, and it was like 1984 like be different, don't follow the crowd kind of commercial, and I'm just sort of thinking that's quite a bit of a change Apple has done since then.
Yeah, I think I need a new laptop. This one that I'm currently podcasting on has become a pain in my rear end. So,
you're gonna get the one with the new 3? Is it USB 3 or I think 3B?
Well, we've talked about making the switch to Mac for a long time, and I think we're just finally gonna do it.
I think it's so funny when people talk about it. It's like it's a life decision. Like my wife and I, we've discussed making the switch to Mac. We're just not sure if we're ready at this stage in our lives. Like...
I mean, we just had children, but now we're getting serious.
Well, it is. Like curmudgeon-y Mike doesn't like learning new software.
I will probably never own a Mac, but mainly because they're expensive, and I don't like the fact that they're expensive. I got a Chromebook
okay,
because it was
so-
a cheap new technology I could play with. I love my Chromebook. It doesn't do as much as I need it to for something, so I still have I actually use my work laptop, but I also just recently bought a really cheap tablet so that I could have something else if I needed to have something on the go and didn't have my work laptop with me.
So go to my Facebook page, like right now. I posted something about this, about how I was considering buying a Mac.
So
and
your
I
Facebook
basically
page,
told-
facebook.com/Jimmy Kimmel.
Right.
I basically told everyone to convince me to buy a Mac. And so
Right.
if you start thumbing through there, and actually Mark Mark commented on it too. But so when you talk about it being more expensive, so if I were to buy a $450 regular PC laptop,
I'm
Right.
going to your page right now. Yeah,
it gets you what, 2 to 4 years of life before you, like, actually this one I'm on is 3 years old and I'm ready to cash it in because it's been nothing but a pain. I've had
Yeah.
to have it repaired. Right now the CMOS battery is bad. I have to repair that for sure. Like, and I know that's not an expensive fix, but everyone
I just scrolled down your page to see that billboard, and that cracks me up.
the what?
It's a billboard that says, "This year, thousands of men will die from stubbornness." That somebody came and graffitied, "No, we won't." Over.
Yeah, that's my background picture. But
Sorry, that caught me off guard.
so anyways, when you talk about this laptop has lasted me 3 years and cost me roughly $450. If I spend $900 on a Mac, if you look at all the people who are telling me on that page, number one, they're up in arms, like, you have to buy Mac. Mac is the way to go. They're all telling me they've had their Mac for 10 to 12 years.
Oh, you're talking to Mac fanboys who are telling you that their Mac will last forever. I am so shocked that this is what they said. Who
Well-
has owned a Mac for 10 to 12 years? People can't even get through their iPhone contract without upgrading to the new iPhone just because they want a freaking upgrade. Nobody has a Mac for 10 to 12 years that still functions.
Okay, so I did have a MacBook for quite a while, and I was actually using Windows for on my Mac for quite a bit. So hardware-wise, on the MacBook, I have treated that laptop per se the shittiest. Like, it's almost like I had a vendetta against this laptop. I mean, you got wine poured on it. Somebody threw up on top of it. I dropped it several times. It was chipping away at the edges. I would take it to work, and I wouldn't necessarily handle it with the utmost care. But it was pretty damn tough. The only problem that I had with it was that power cord, and it's a problem with all Mac products. I don't get what the hell they're doing with their power cords. But I had to replace that 4 or 5 times because it would just, get slightly bent, and then it would short circuit, or wires would like melt or whatever. So I had to always keep freaking replacing them. So it was a fire hazard.
He's burned down 3 houses. However, the laptop, it's running strong.
But the laptop itself was really, really good. I mean, I ended up stopped using it because the keyboard stopped working. I think the wine finally got to like the memory circuit, or I don't know. It was.
I only stopped using it because after the 3 houses that burned down, the keyboard just stopped functioning, and I figured it was time to upgrade.
I think the wine finally soaked through.
My Mac was an enabler, like I would drink, it would drink. It was getting to be a serious problem.
And that's why I'm going to buy a Mac.
I mean, Mike, if you and your wife are ready for the plunge, you talked about it, you got your finances in line, you've understood the culture change that comes with purchasing a Mac, and that you have to have all new friends and shop at
Well,
different
actually, that was
stores.
part of it. Like, it sounds like there's no culture change now because they offer programs that let you just dual boot Windows if you want.
The dual booting is definitely a nice feature in those. The ease of dual booting a Mac has always been quite a nice feature. And I do see a lot of people that really do use their Macs and like their Macs, but every person I see with a Mac always has a Mac that's less than 2 years old. I've never seen somebody bust out a Mac and be like, "Oh, I love my Mac. It's greater than 3. Never seen it.
I know that one of the strongest people, and if you look at that post on my Facebook, his name is Brad. He's actually the tech director at several churches in the area, and he does all kinds of computer type work. And he's one of the strongest people telling me to get a Mac because that's what he swears by. And he's done both. So I mean, there is compelling arguments both ways. I was leaning Mac anyway, and I told people to convince me, and they definitely did. And by the way, if I were to put up a post saying, convince me to stay with PC, do you think there would have been, 6 or 7 people who would
No, I don't think PC
adamantly argue that I need to stay with PC?
I think you have Mac fanboys and then Mac haters. I don't think you have PC fanboys as much as you do,
Right.
Well, it's
other
also split up
things.
though, because
PCs.
the reason why you hate your laptop is partly to do with the brand. And the laptop that I'm using now is also that similar brand. And I'm looking at a freaking white vertical line on my screen that I on this laptop that I had for a year.
That's
now
why
this one, I didn't put wine on it. This one I treated a lot better than my Mac, and it's been giving me problems since like the 3rd week in.
See, ironically,
this one has been a pain too.
the,
And ours is the same brand, but I would challenge you to find anybody who owns just like a regular, PC laptop who doesn't have problems with it within the first 2
the tablet that I bought is officially an unbranded tablet, so I can avoid that. It's the brand called unbranded.
I like that brand. No labels.
No, my last laptop that I didn't have from work lasted me for a long time. It was a Dell, and it lasted me for a good 7 years before. The reason I stopped using it was because I got one from work. I started using it because the old one was slow. But I've also had laptops before that quickly met their demise and did not move on anymore. So I've seen the problems, and I definitely have seen people very happy with their Macs, and I can't get over that. I never see people with old ones, despite what you're saying. People have them for 10 to 12 years. I've never seen it physically, and they're so expensive and so proprietary, and that's what I hate.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I'm in a situation where we're financially sound enough that we can make this investment, and if it's a terrible situation after we do it, I'll make sure I'll let everybody know. How about that?
And myself and the doctor girlfriend, we're gonna have to work for a couple more years to be financially sound enough for that Mac investment. We'll have to discuss it and then see what life decisions we would like to make.
I guess, Mike, though, I agree with you. Like, it's one of the more expensive purchases that you'll make for your household. It's not like I have to really think about this spoon. Will I get it or not? Who cares? It's a spoon.
Right.
But when it comes to something that might cost thousands of dollars,
I think it is funny though, because I will think long and hard about buying a laptop or something like that, and $500, and I'm like, I got to do all the research and get just the right one because that's a big investment. And then in the next week, I'll buy $500 worth of shit that I found online that was on sale that I think nothing of. I'm just like, oh yeah, this thing was $80 and it normally costs $150. I'm just gonna get it right now because I know it's cheap. Oh, this thing is another $50, and it just I do it all the time.
Yeah, and that's exactly our point, is that my wife and I were talking about this one that I'm on right now. I'm pretty sure it cost $450 or $500 for this laptop, which it hasn't lasted us any time. It's been 3 years. So when I talk to a guy who works with computers for a living and says he's literally on Facebook, telling me that I need to go Mac on a Mac computer that's 12 years old. Well, guess what? When you have one that has lasted you 3 years for $500, that works out the Mac is much cheaper over a long timeline. So we're going to give it a shot, see what it goes,
It's not that actually that big of a deal now that I think about it. Because when I went to college, I bought myself a laptop, was an Apple, that cost over $1,000, and I'm thinking, that's about $1,000 to $2,000 for sort of mid-range laptops back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, laptop prices have changed a lot since then.
Yeah.
So like, when you spend more than $500 on a laptop, that seems like, oh, now it's really expensive.
What I do find funny is you already have an iPhone, right, Mike?
Yeah.
My sister, she's one of those people who she'll jump on a bandwagon and just like ride it like you're wrong if you don't, believe what she says. And I remember I went home a couple of years ago. I went home, visited my parents, and my sister was like, "Oh, we just all got a family plan together. I got them on our plan, so we all have like this really good deal." And I decided that, I got them all iPhones because iPhones are great and they're wonderful. And I'm like, okay, I don't see why you went the iPhone route instead of like other things that I know my mom really liked this phone for this feature that I know the iPhone doesn't have, but whatever. Like, they don't use their phones for too much crazy stuff anyway, no big deal.
Right.
And she went on and on and on with me about why I need to change to an iPhone and how Android sucks, and she can't believe I'm still with that, and I should know better because I'm a computer guy and a tech guy, and how I should know all this stuff. All of a sudden, I don't talk to her about phones since then. And all of a sudden, I see her a couple weeks ago. My mom and my sister came and visited, and my mom pulled out her phone, and I was like, "Oh, you got a different phone." I was like, "You got an Android now." And she's like, "Yeah." And my sister's like, "Yeah, iPhones suck. I don't know why anybody likes them. It was the worst choice like we ever did. We kind of got forced into getting the iPhone with the way the discounts worked last time. So I'm so happy to be back to Android." And I was like, what is going on here?
Well, I do like the iPhones. In fact, I'm on my 3rd generation iPhone now.
Did it last you 10 to 12 years?
Well, no, not the phone.
Did
No.
it last you your contract?
Yeah, I've never had a problem with that. But I'm just sort of like I'm accustomed to the iPhone at this point. And by the way, like, it's not that my wife and I are super stubborn and we're just gonna iPhone gun ho. Like, she has always had an Android, actually. So I'm exposed to both of them, and I like my iPhone better. That's all. It comes down to personal preference. That's all.
I was thinking about trying out the iPhone, the last phone I got, but right when my contract expired is when the phone I currently have had just come out, and I was like, "Oh, I really like that one too." So I just on a whim was like, "I gotta go with the upgraded version of this other phone as opposed to the iPhone." And I don't know.
I always joke about how I'm like old and curmudgeon-y and don't like change or whatever. I really don't know that that's what it is with my phone. I just think I genuinely am okay with what iPhone is.
And the thing is, people love them. Like that, you can't say there's something wrong with an iPhone. I don't think it's a problem. It's just like Macs as well. I don't think there's anything wrong with a Mac. Just my personal preference and reason why I don't want one myself. But I see people who love them, so I would love to give one a try. I just don't want to go buy one.
I think we've just kind of touched on a lesson in life that everyone should learn.
Ooh.
Everything is just okay. don't just judge people based on what they do. Everything's fine.
You're right. Judge them based on the color of their skin, their religion, and their sexual preferences. I mean, that's what you can judge people on. It's especially if you're in Kentucky and you're a county clerk. Jesus Christ, I cannot believe that.
She's a crazy person.
I love the backstory with her though. Like, it's such an interesting situation she's in, and have your opinions about her. I do think like this whole public shaming of her is probably going a little bit overboard now.
I don't at all.
I don't see. Whatever, she has her opinions. She's sticking with them.
She can't use her opinions in the position that she's in.
I'm not defending her. I'm saying because do I think she should be in jail and be fined for not doing her job because that's the rule law of the land? Hell yeah, I do. Do I think she also deserves basically a good portion of America shaming her? Not quite. Or the other half that is rooting her on? Not quite either. But I do think let's be sensible about what's actually happening here.
Do you think it's something that shouldn't ever make the news? Like, nobody should know that that's happening if they don't live in that area? Is that what you're saying? And for those who don't know what we're talking about the county clerk in Kentucky who refused to sign the gay marriage licenses saying it was against her religious belief, even though it's a legal thing.
Yeah.
So I just got done basically watching a TED Talk and some articles on public shaming, and that's sort of like shaped my view on how people should be treated now, because it's not like you do something wrong back in the past and it's your community that you get shamed at with. It's you do something wrong and like, you know, you could have like a whole country or even the whole world against you, and that's a little bit different. Like think of like Monica Lewinsky. Like when you hear her backstory on top of the Bill Clinton incident, it's really interesting how it built up to the situation where she was, and how everybody has an opinion on Monica Lewinsky. And what did she do? She gave a blowjob to a president. I mean, like thousands of people probably have done that before her, and probably several people have done it after her.
I don't know if I'd say thousands, but
not thousands, but JFK probably had 100 women himself.
And Lyndon LBJ also probably had a lot of women. I mean, he liked going around talking about how big his dick was compared to JFK. So
yeah, mass media is a bad thing for sure.
I mean, it can be good and it can be bad. I just don't necessarily think this clerk, you know, needs to necessarily be like a head figure for this topic or whatever. But what I was trying to say earlier is her backstory is what's really interesting, because she's a born-again Christian who beforehand had 3 divorces, was married to a person, cheated on her husband with a guy that would be her husband number 3. She had babies from husband number 3, not husband yet, while she cheated on husband number 1. Got remarried to husband number 2. Husband number 2 adopted husband number 3's kid, thinking it was husband number 1's children. And then she divorced him and married husband number 3. And then she found...
Who turned gay.
Then she found Christ, and she's like, this is my beliefs now, and I'm sticking hardcore, you know, like with the religion. And, you know, good for her. She has new convictions, and maybe I don't necessarily agree with them, but you know, she's like, I have this stance and I want to stick with it. Okay. But it's just sort of like,
and all this, also, she's going to force everybody who gets a marriage certificate to enter into polygamy with somebody else.
Well,
yeah, it's just sort of interesting. It's just a really interesting backstory.
What needs to happen is, if you have like a situation where you're not able to do your job fairly, you need to step down or be able to be removed. Like I saw this, it was like a satirical comic. I wish I could remember who to give credit to. I believe it was on Twitter somewhere.
I'll give it Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel. But it was a fast food worker. We actually talked about fast food earlier. So it's some kid behind the counter at a fast food restaurant saying, "No, I'm sorry, you can't purchase that because I would be contributing to your gluttony." And it was just like, you know, it's the same sort of scenario where it's like, really?
Especially that he called it gluttony.
Well, you know what I find really interesting is her, because the way U.S. laws are, because she's an elected official and she can't be fired. She totally Rob Fording us. Like, you know, Rob Ford from Canada, who's been the crack smoking
Tommy boy.
Yeah. And America's like pointing at Canada like, ha, look at this guy. He's a joke, but you can't get rid of him. And he's, you know, doing crack while he's on the job and, you know, breaking all kinds of laws. We're sort of in a similar situation now.
And that's why I think it's good that there's a public shaming part of it, because it gets the story out there to show, like, not only be careful on who you elect, but it gets it out there too, and it shows other states and other counties that might have the same issue, that you can't get away with this.
Don't act this way.
Yeah, precedence is being set. Precedent is being set.
Precedence. Yeah. But I don't like someone being like, I want the precedent set, but I don't like people being made an example of. Like, now she's going to be associated with this whole situation.
She should be. She's the one taking it up on her own hands to go against the law of the land. Go ahead and shame her for that.
Right. But like, let's say like somebody's caught in prostitution, and then you publicly shaming that one person.
Their arrest record's going to be public.
That's-
And they're not an elected official. If they're an elected official, sure, put it out there. If it's some random person, no, you don't need to make it national news. Nobody knows who they are. But if it's an elected official, it's different. It's
Well,
of
look,
what we
guys,
signed
this
up
is
to.
a good topic, but we got to go. We're out
We
of
gotta
time.
go.
We're out of time.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
All right. Take care.
All right.
I got sort of intense news.